Just lie here on the floor. Cold towels, my feet against the door. How long have I been in this space? Arms over eyes, help me retrace. How did I become the doormat here? Memories spinning around my head seem pretty cavalier. Little by little you take control. It's a little uncivil how your game's emotional. And I don't even notice that I'm playing your game. Till you leave me alone and thinking I'm the one to blame. Your words weave strings around our limbs. Players in unfamiliar skin. Dangled like toys in your roadshow. Too easy now just to let go. How did I become the puppet here? The string unraveled from my heart has made it pretty clear. Little by little you take control. It's a little uncivil how your game's emotional. And I don't even notice that I'm playing your game. Till you leave me alone and thinking
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of People Who Inspire. I'm excited that we have a very knowledgeable, erudite person as far as the law is concerned. And I'm excited that you've also made time to join us in today's episode. As I always say every week, I say that the success of an individual is more or less enshrined in the process or the journey. Much more is learned through the journey than in the destination. And so today we are going to not just talk about the topic, but we're also going to know a little bit more about my guest. We have Dr. Theophilus Edwin Coleman, and he's going to share his personal journey and also share a bit about the topic that we are going to discuss today about the gig economy. What are some of the emerging issues that are coming up? What are some of the constraints and what are some of the legal ramifications as well as far as this whole hubbub about the gig economy is concerned? So I'm excited. Dr. Coleman, welcome and welcome to People Who Inspire. Happy to have you.
Thank you so much. It's happy to be on your show and also to have a discussion with you about myself and also some emerging legal issues that require some attention in Ghana and in Africa at large. So I'm very excited to be talking.
Awesome. How's your weekend? What's anything planned for the weekend?
The weekends are usually packed. Sometimes I do rest a little bit, but most of the time I work, because of some deadlines here and there and all that. But we try as much as possible to also and make room for social life as well. So this weekend is more of a working weekend.
Okay.
Weekends are, a mix.
Which is why I'm very thankful for the fact that, you made time for today's episode of People Who Inspire. So, to start the conversation, I know that for some time now, you have been a very strong advocate for especially young people who would want to pursue, law and who would want to probably pick up a career. We'll come to that aspect, but I want you to share a bit about who, Dr. Coleman is. I mean, how exactly did you get to this point? Can you share a bit about, how you grew up, the various milestones where you schooled, and, there's some, maybe if there are any key notable milestones you like to share along the line, please feel free to do so. But can you tell us a bit about who you are?
Thank you. A brief something about myself. I wouldn't say I am me. I would say I am a combination of my family, my friends, and mentors. So before anyone could get to any point, there are people who hold their hands to, they hold their hands to a certain point, other people come and then continue. So the very beginning of my career has been with my parents and my family, particularly my brother who attended Infancy Anyway. So we are well immersed in the Kwabuchi.
MOBA.
We are well immersed in the Kwabuchi doctrine. So I'm from Cape Coast, especially Abiasi in Cape Coast is a very popular area because somewhere in the 90s there used to be a very well-known club in that area. So
oh, really?
So growing up, people coming to have fun to see and all that. So around the Abiasi area, and that is where I grew up, and with a very small family. And I went to primary school in Philip Kweku Boys. I started at Philip Kweku Boys. And my dad is a prison officer. So anytime I try to explain things to as to how far I've come, I try to point out to people about the need for stability in people's lives. So my dad is a prison officer, and he used to, in fact, they transferred him a lot. Today he will be in Ankaful, and then he was transferred to Takwa, and then he was transferred to another village somewhere, just in the course of his employment. So one of the things that happened was that usually when your dad is transferred, it impacts the child's education very much because you need to
exactly
schools and all that. But then thankfully for my elder brother and myself, we were able to, my parents were able to make what I would say a smart decision by letting us go stay with our grandmother. So for the most part of my, let's say, adolescent life, I was living with my grandmother until SS1 in Infant.
Okay. Wow. Can you still hear me? I think your video is frozen. If you can still hear me. Okay, so for those of you watching today's episode, I have Dr. Theophilus Edwin Coleman, and he's just basically telling us about his journey. Can you still hear me now? Oh, okay, he's back. Yes. Okay, now I can hear you.
So as I said, it was a decision of stability. So around SS1, that was when my grandmother passed on. So my parents had to come in.
May she rest in peace.
Amen. Even before that, my mom in particular, women, we usually don't care about certain things. But my mom usually tells me that the school you go to gives you classmates. So she was very much on our case in terms of going to the very good schools that one would one would dream of. So, yes, especially in Ghana, let me put it that way. So, that is how this whole journey started. So, even going to Infantsipim, I was seeing my elder brother. I initially wanted to go to Adesada. Many will not be happy to hear this.
Wow.
But because of the school that the JHS, no, it was primary that I attended. It's an Anglican school, so most of the schools that you think about is Adesada. But then
Yes.
something happened in primary school that made my mom take a very bold step. So for some time I wasn't well. About 3 months I didn't go to school. So this was primary school. So 3 months I didn't go to school, and then one day I go to school. It was exam time, and then I do very well. And then my mom goes like, "No, this can't be it.
Yeah, she saw the potential.
Can't be it," because it's like she has seen that yes, I'm trying, but um, um, in terms of the competition, she felt that wasn't it. So she took both, transferred me to University Junior High School, which is that is where I attended.
One of the best, actually.
That is where I attended GSS, and I went there and I saw for the very first time I saw real competition. I'm not
the
saying
squad. The squad was tight.
Those that I started with aren't that smart. They are really good people and very smart people, especially my cousins, Alvin Johnson, who's very smart, and all that. So my mom decided to take that step, especially to transfer me to University Junior High School, and then I met really intelligent people. They pushed me. So if that is when I got that realization that if you think you are smart, actually you are not. People are smarter than you, and that you must remain humble. So it was University GSS that formulated a very good foundation for me to think of bettering myself from an academic. Yes. So yeah.
Wow.
And then from there I came to Infantsipim, and that also created.
How was the competition in Infantsipim?
That was also on a different level. And I would say that it was more or less a healthy competition of people wanting to genuinely better themselves, and people from different backgrounds and all that, from all over. Because in JSS, you find people from the same area, but when you get to SS, you see that people from different regions coming in from different perspectives.
True.
And all that. And that's where I even met you, we took some steps to give me some directions here and there. But one of the highlights at Infantsipim was the co-curricular activity. So
very
I was
true.
part of the regimental band, and that was very, very pivotal for me. So yeah, so after Infantsipim, I served as a waiter at Prospect Lodge for
really?
When you finish SS, there's this year that you have to finish for a year. So during that period, you can't stay at home. Also, things are tough and all that. You need to support home. I always tell people that is why I've taken strong interest in labor law and social security, because as of 2007, when I completed Infantsipim school, I wouldn't want to mention my dad's salary until, as at that time, he had even been in the service for about 20 years, and his salary isn't something that one could mention. So if you look at the work done and the conditions of service, it isn't good enough. So yeah, I was forced to actually do something within that period, and it was that period that I used to also gather money whilst I was waiting for university responses. And I got
Wow,
both.
a waiter. Wow.
Yes. This is story that you see sometimes. Um, the scientists will say, essay, o bayira aba enyim zoshe obi shinifie.
And
So that is that is the reality. So and it was important for us to do it. It also gave me that foundation to be humble as well in life. So during that time, I I I applied to Legon and also KNUST. And then my mom again said I should apply to UCC. And young boy, you are stubborn and all that. She gave me the
yeah.
money. She gave me the money. So yes, I don't know what happened to the UCC application. Um, but then I felt that yes, from my parents' point of view, I am in Cape Coast. I grew up in Cape Coast. Um, at least if I school in Cape Coast, it will mitigate the financial burden on them because I can see that
Yes.
I was going to school.
Very true.
But I had a different idea as well. I wanted to experience something else. So I got admission to Kane University and to Legon, and I chose Legon for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
Since and I also felt that the Legon experience was on a different level for me because um, that opened my eyes to so many things. I met very good people. I met nice people. Um, uh, yeah, in the course of the Legon period, you try to do a little bit of student politics here and there. So that was the Legon experience as well. I was in Commonwealth Hall, which
Oh. Vandal City.
yes, the best hall ever. So anyone who goes to Legon must pay to be a Commonwealth Hall, and that also opens you to another level of nice people. I say nice people because these are people who are collectively interested in the growth of each and every one. And I don't know whether it's a boys thing, but from Infantipium boys school to Legon and Commonwealth, or there has been that collective.
boys.
So to date, I even don't like people calling me doctor. Because, when they call me, I go like, "As it was so." For some,
Yeah.
yeah, we are still immersed in that boys.
Yeah.
When it comes to work, we try to do it as well. And I have a lot of friends both from Infantipium and from Legon. In fact, there are a lot of people that know Edwin Coleman because I'm that sociable. I think it's now that I've sort of curled into my cell a little bit, maybe circumstances are maybe, but I'm naturally sociable and likable. Even if you don't like me, I'll make you like me by force.
Yeah.
So after Infantipium, I did my national service at Central Regional Coordinating Council,
Okay.
just by Holy Child School. And also, it was at that point that some friends of mine, most of my friends, because of my elder brother, I got this interest of befriending elderly people. So most of my friends are actually elderly people, and they try. In fact, my brother told me that they say experience is the best teacher, but he said that you don't necessarily have to go through it. Someone
Yeah,
must
exactly.
have experience to tell you. So
To tell you.
I
Yeah.
and the elderly people so that I can tap into their knowledge and all that. So now with few of my friends who are my mates, there are a lot of my friends who are elderly, who are older than me. So it was through that conversation that One, it was a conversation with one of my friends. He's at the Central Regional Library, and he's like, "No, I did political science at Legon. Um, he doesn't see much in terms of the career prospect, especially from an academic point of view. And for me, I tried to even explain things to him that there are serious prospects because in terms of policy making, decision making from a governmental level, political scientists are there. And what he told me was that political science serves as a basis um, for people to even do well in law.
True.
So,
True.
which later I found out to be very true. So it was that friend of mine at the Central Regional Library, Mr. Eugene, and some friends of mine, and I got the final affirmation from my parents, who believed that I should venture into law, and they were
Wow.
trying to tell me, but I didn't. But you see, there is a point that I need to make. Um, Sometimes we don't get the immediate guidance that one would require. If I
Yes.
got immediate guidance from my family, I would have gone straight to law. But you might never know.
Okay.
There's also another
Yes.
path that I should have taken to also make a lot of friends, to deepen my knowledge and all that.
Yes.
And currently, the argument I usually advance is that the law is better for people or people who already have a post qualification tends to be matured in terms of their
Yes.
understanding of the law. And I'm trying to even ascertain the veracity of it in terms of providing some facts into it. So I'm doing some studies into that. But in most
Okay.
countries, we didn't have a postgraduate qualification for studying law. So which then means that there is some essence. So I got that final affirmation, and it was at during my national service that there's this friend of mine at the Central Regional Coordinating Council known as Bimbo Labota. And
Hey.
also Bimbo Labota,
What a name.
that is his nickname, Bimbo.
Yeah.
Also, so Auntie Joyce and Bimbo, because at the Central Regional Coordinating Council, every morning you get copies of graphic and the rest, so they read it before we read it. So they told me that, oh, UCC is starting law, and I should
Oh,
go.
okay.
Important. So if I'm saying this to emphasize that no matter the environment you find yourself, at least try to be cordial with people, even if you
With
disagree.
people.
It is those people who see some things who can even point it out to you that this is it. So initially, I wanted to do communications in addition to the political science, but then when I saw the law, I was like, my parents wanted me to go to UCC anyway because of the Cape Coast affinity. So let me go there, and it was one of the fantastic moments of my life.
Wow.
I went to UCC. My very first semester was very, very, very concerning. It was really the first semester was very concerning for me. So also at UCC, it was during a debate that a lecturer called me on the side. May he so rest in peace. Reverend Father Isidore Bonobo, SG. He called me on the side and he said, I have seen something. Maybe you have seen it as well, but you don't know how to go about it. But I have seen something. I have seen that you can be good with this law. I want you to take it serious. And
wow.
Largely because of the points that I made. So, and I'm the sort when someone takes time to sit me down to advise me, I take it. Because contrary to the understanding that advice is meant to be taken or not. I try to look at it from someone else's perspective. So what I did was that after he told me that, I went back and then sat down because my first semester wasn't that good. In fact, it wasn't good, let me put it that way. I sat down during the Christmas vacation. Whilst people were doing Christmas and all those were enjoying their Christmas, I decided to sort of rewind in terms of the very knowledge, understanding, and when I got it, that was it.
Wow.
So I think it was that sort of a eureka moment for me. So it got to that point where there isn't any legal problem that I wouldn't tell you. There isn't any case that I wouldn't know and all that. But then another notch came somewhere in the third year, getting to the final year, where I became very fascinated about the philosophy of the law.
Okay.
It wasn't just about what in this case, this and this and that, in this act, this and this and that. I became very fascinated about the philosophy of the law. So even when I'm answering questions, there's this professor who tells me that I try to give reasons why my answer is this. Sometimes, especially with lawyers who might not have that academic qualification, they might not like it.
They might not, yeah.
I just want you to state the point. But I feel that even if I give you my justification, in law, there's something that I always tell students, there's something that I always tell my mentees. There isn't a right or wrong answer. In between, there's fact, but there isn't right or wrong answer. Whenever you give an answer, try and then substantiate it. That is why when you go to even court, there are both sides to the case. It's trying to affirm something, one is trying to disable. So I wouldn't tell you that your answer is wrong when you tell me something, or when I tell you something at that point. Try and then read through the lines, the reasons I have given for the answers. If it is logical enough, that is fine. So I used to see when I got that spark within the first semester. After the first semester, the second semester was incredible.
Wow.
And I remember the Reverend Father coming to me and telling me that you are doing something right. Continue. Because there was this monumental shift from my first semester result to the second semester result where I got all A's. Even on scoring, I got A's in it. So it was that attitude that I took till the final year, and the all A's still continued.
Wow.
Yes.
And you know what's fascinating for me, sorry to interrupt, but what's interesting to me, and I get this with all my guests, that there's always that one person who says something to you that kind of gives you the impetus, right, to believe in yourself that you can do it. And I think this Reverend Father, I mean, like you said, may he rest in peace, but I think really he was sent by God to talk to you at that time.
So aside from the Reverend Father, there was also Dr. Akon. He's now a doctor. At that point, he was a lawyer. Dr. Akon also took interest in me. Dr. Bolanle and Rino Show also took interest in what I was doing. And the current dean at UCC, Mrs. Julia Selman, I think she was appointed in some few weeks ago at UCC. They all took interest in the path. And one thing is that even now, the position that I find myself, I stretch forth a hand to those who are willing to learn and listen.
Exactly.
So even those who don't listen, I try, but it will work very well if you are sowing a seed and the soil is fertile enough for you to grow. So that is what happened. And so I got people who really, and also and then getting to the final year, it was this Professor Kwa, who also
Okay.
taught me. But he was the one who stated that the way I answer my question, it might be appealing to academics.
Okay.
Necessarily guys. So yeah, and then Professor Warren Simpson. So it was a collective agenda, and not necessarily they came together to agree that let us push this person in their own individual ways.
Yes.
They contributed, and then immediately after the LLB, we all enter into Ghana school, we all enter into law school or law
Law school.
faculty. Now we are going to, and that is one of the downsides of the law faculties, which I think they should really work on, because even as at that time, I really didn't get anyone who could say that no, I have seen something different. Don't go here.
Wow.
That path, because we all enter with legitimate expectation that we want to go to law school and become lawyers, and then we wrote the entrance exams to the shock of many. I didn't pass, and in fact, many were surprised at the UCC. Many people that went to write the exams used the notes I prepared. In fact, at some point at C Poly campus, half of the class who are in Central Region will come to C Poly. I used to stay around C Poly campus. They will come to C Poly so that we'll have a discussion. I'll be in front to teach.
Wow.
So that some of my colleagues were like, no, they think I should take.
There's something wrong. Yeah.
Somewhere. So they felt no, it wasn't good. And then I was torn between preparing for another year, because to think of masters elsewhere, it comes with money. Cost comes in on all those things. So it becomes very difficult to make a decision about doing further studies when you don't have the financial wherewithal to pursue it. So, and also I hadn't really prepared. So it was after the whole Ghana School of Law saga, and I was like, no, let me go back to UCC. I also got some people who said I should go back to UCC to be a teaching assistant.
Okay.
So then you are torn between having this weird feeling of what will people think. And I got really bad experiences with some students, especially my juniors, some of whom I had even directed in terms of how to even approach the law. Because of that myopic understanding that the law is all about Ghana School of Law. To some people, if you don't, then it's like you don't.
You're not good enough. Yeah.
But that wasn't even the case, because I went there, and then I met Professor Bimreku. Professor Bimreku currently is the chair of the UCC Council. So I was working under Professor Bimreku as his teaching assistant, and also Mrs. Julia Salmanaiti, the current dean, as their TA. It was Professor Bimreku who told me that I should bring my result so he can see. He saw the result.
Okay.
You should go elsewhere. So if he was the dean in one of the universities in South Africa, and then he told me that University of Johannesburg. At that time, I had also gotten admission to one of the University of Denver, Colorado.
Okay.
But then it was the South African one due to financial constraints. So yeah, that is what happened. And then I decided to apply to South Africa. Immediately, there was a shift in my mentality that coming to do something, and not necessarily I'm coming to do something for myself. Because usually people tend to think, oh, let me come and do this and then I'll go back come go to the Ghana School of Law and all that.
Yeah.
I got that mentality that once I'm taking that step, I should do it well. So it was my friends who came together to even by some of my friends bought mobiles, some from Legon. They contributed money. My brother, make you take this.
Wow.
Take it.
Wow.
Or some of my
Seriously.
friends. And if you see my doctoral thesis, I have listed all of them.
All of them. Wow. Wow.
And I had, and I still have a sweetheart who was very supportive in that process. So I got here, and my brother sold his car so that I could pay 30%
What?
of tuition. Yes.
Are you serious?
It was a very confusing process in 2017 when I got here, because I think the deadline for scholarship had lapsed and all those things. And so it was very, so I got to South Africa not knowing even how to pay my school fees. And my brother sold his car. Because these were his words, that Cape Coast is small. He does his own business in Cape Coast. He said Cape Coast is very small. Even if he has to work, he will work.
Wow.
So with all people coming together, my parents, my friends, people special to me, the professors who directed me that this path should be taken. Coincidentally, as at that time, UCC and University of Johannesburg had taken some steps in terms of collaboration, but I didn't fall under that collaboration. So no institution at that point paid my tuition. It wasn't UCC that paid my tuition or anything whatsoever. So I came here on my own accord, and I struggled in the beginning. But because Professor Bimreku had already been in a South African domain, he knew what was going to happen. So at some point, I just had to make my mind that, no, let me focus, study, go back. And then in between, the current Deputy Vice Chancellor of University of Johannesburg, in fact, it was somewhere March 2017, that the current, he was then the dean, said, I need a student assistant, a research assistant. Research work. The money isn't enough. It can help you pay your accommodation and then also take a little bit of yourself and all that. And that made also a difference. And in the course of it, the faculty also waived my tuition. So the money that I paid initially came down to me. And thanks to
that's amazing.
So it's been contributions of people. Since then, since 2017, I was working with Professor Edwin as assistant. And in 2017, I was torn between coming back home as a lecturer, as assistant lecturer at that time, because I completed my master's in 1 year. So I had, because you can't stay for 2 years. Who is going to pay? You have to.
How you survive? Yeah.
So the whole life was to do my best, because my friends knew who they were supporting. So even if it wasn't for myself, it was for my friends, my family, and the mentors. And that is what I usually say, that I wouldn't be where I am without the friends that I met and the friends that I still meet, my family, who have been a very supportive structure, and my mentors. And mentors come in because in 2017, I had bad passion and desire. And I remember Professor Mpedi telling me that your passion is at the right place. Your desire is at the right place. That you need to polish that passion and desire. So that is a personal step that he took, that he would guide me in terms of this academic process. But as I said, in 2017, there was this, I was torn between coming back to UCC as assistant lecturer that time and also doing my PhD. And again, I went back to Professor Impedi to seek his views about it.
Okay.
He's Deputy Vice Chancellor. I co-authored the Labor Law in Ghana book with him.
Oh, okay. So he's the co-author. Okay.
And he told me one thing that really stuck. He said a minister came to South Africa, a doctor must leave South Africa. So there and there, a different
Wow.
perspective has been put before you, and you would have to do your best towards it. And I really had that interest. Initially I was like, oh, let me go do the PhD part-time so that I can work and do all those things. And he told me that, no, focus, you are still young. I think when I started my PhD, I was 28, thereabout. And then within 2 years, I started in 2018 and I finished in 2020. And people are still surprised.
That's amazing. Yeah, I've never heard that before. It's my first time.
People are doing it,
Oh, wow.
People are doing it. There are smart people. Around. So the only thing you can do is to humble yourself. And then so it's been, to cut the long story short, it's been friends who have been very supportive. My advice to you is that when you are relating to people, relate to them genuinely, because these are friends that I met. Some of them are friends I met in GSS. Some went to different places. I went to Infantino. For instance, my friend Taribo, we met. He went to Augustine's. I went to Infantino. He was in the US when I said I want to go to school. It's like, my brother, this is what I have. Please hold on to it.
Wow.
Right? So
Amazing.
the value of it cannot be underestimated. So anyone who is close to me knows the extent to which I can go for people, because the support they gave me, as I said, same support is what I intend and what I will give to people. So, and my family, they've been very, very, very supportive, really supportive. Both very, very, very supportive in this process. When things get hard, they don't understand the legal terrain, but all that they are concerned is their child should position himself somewhere so that they will be comfortable as well. And most gratitude goes to my elder brother. He decided to sell his car.
Amazing.
The story is not told. People wouldn't understand.
Yes.
People know. Because, in fact, I just don't have to take a megaphone and then be announced, and this is what people need to know. You see, but when the right time presents itself, we tell it as it is. And again, the mentors, the person who held my hand to direct me in this academic journey, Professor Impedi, and he still does that. I did my doctorate in mercantile law, international commercial law, but then after that, I was asking questions about labor law and all that. Don't forget, I had been a research assistant for some time. So I felt, why not get another domain to what I have? So that is where we all respond. We ask questions, we understand. So the book currently is the only book, let me say it emphatically, it is the only book in Ghana that is published by a reputable publisher. A publisher known. It is not a published book. It is a book the process is well done. So you see, I am being taught the right way. If I had rushed to Ghana, I would have been in the academic setting, but I wouldn't have necessarily gotten this expertise and that knowledge that I have currently in the academic space. So it's been a very thrilling journey with friends, with family, friends, and mentors being there, serving as very strong pillar for. So that has been a process.
Yeah, and you mentioned before we get into the gig economy topic, but there's something that I've been following online for some time now. And for those of you watching, this is you can see on the screen, Labor Law in Ghana. So this is the book published by LexisNexis. And you can see here Professor Impedi, as Dr. Coleman said. And then, so he co-authored this book with Professor Impedi. So please, if you're watching this, you can see the book. I've just put that on the screen in the slide. Where can people get? In the meantime, I think I saw a copy on Amazon as well. Are there any other online bookstores that you would recommend?
LexisNexis website.
Okay. So the LexisNexis website. Okay, so because they are the publishers, so it makes sense. Yeah. So please, just feel free. So as we are continuing the conversation, there's a topic that you have consistently shared your views on regarding the setup of the Ghana Law School. And you have shared, just a few minutes ago, the ordeal that you've had to go through. So, from your point of view, right, what exactly is the core problem and what can be a potential remedy?
The core problem is that we have incompetent people handling legal education in Ghana. That is the main problem. Because if you look at the historical trajectory of legal education, the Ghana School of Law was supposed to be a continuing school where people get their vocational perspectives of the law. And the history will tell you the establishment of the Ghana School of Law, there were serious opposition, especially from the law faculty in Legon, where they believe that there shouldn't be any professional institution. They could, once they are doing the LLB, they could train the lawyers as well. And that proposition, that time, seems to be what is the situation now. And over time, with the composition of the General Legal Council and giving the authority to deal with legal education, they have now been dealing with legal education like an object that appears to them in a room. So today they will get up and then they will say, oh, come to law school for 2 years, do internship for 1 year, do this for 2 years. What this tells us is that, excuse me to say, there's no thinking process going through with the decision making.
Exactly.
There's making decisions. And what they tend to forget is that they are actually delaying the economic utility of the Ghanaian youth. So we have incompetent people handling legal education. And I say incompetent in the context that the General Legal Council, which should deal with legal education, comprises mainly lawyers. And lawyers without any further qualification or any further exposure in what the legal education should be don't really understand what it is. So
exactly.
The solution will be that, and I need to state it on record today, that I don't respect the General Legal Council. And this is something that is not, I'm not saying it today. I don't respect it.
Yes, I've seen that on social media.
And the reason being that I don't think an institution, a government institution, should whittle down the hopes and aspirations of any Ghanaian youth. Any competent institution must rather develop the dreams and aspirations of people so that our legal system can be better. So the story that I told you, I got a professor who said, no, you have the passion, you have the desire. And this is a passion that must be molded properly to situate in the right context. So if people have the passion and desire, any serious leadership will rather tap into that passion and desire so that our legal system will become stronger and robust. Currently, they don't know what they are doing. We need to be very frank because you cannot say I have done LLB when there are certain courses taken away from the LLB. In fact, standard practice, international best practices will tell you that if you do LLB, it must be a whole package. You cannot take certain courses and say they are professional courses, which is not true. So we should dissolve the General Legal Council, and the best solution is for Parliament to also not throw the incompetence. Parliament must stand up. Parliament must make the right decision, because they have the levers of lawmaking. In fact, it must, even if it comes from the executive, it's fine. They must make that authoritative decision to say that no one can just, once we have law faculties, why should we let people spend 6 years, 7 years, 8 years, sometimes even 9 years just to become lawyer? I don't think
become lawyers. Yeah.
Anyway, we're only delaying the economic utility of these of the young people. I was fortunate enough to get people to guide me.
To get out of this system. Yeah.
What about those people who haven't gotten that opportunity as well? It becomes a problem. I know someone, a very good friend of mine, who stayed in the system for 6 years after LLB.
Wow.
6 years. He's almost 40 years. The productivity of an individual, the economic utility of an individual can be calculated. So all these, I don't know why an entity will still want to assume power. Me, as someone who has gone through the mill to become a legal academic, I teach law students, and that teaching must be validated by people who don't know.
Someone who don't know,
There's a mismatch. You see, and I'm not saying this to say that lawyers don't know what they are about, but the legal profession is so compartmentalized that when you try to stretch your hand to another domain, it becomes a problem. So, for instance, lawyers do specific work, judges do specific work, and we, the legal academics, we develop the legal system through our legal scholarship. So it's a tripartite system. One does not need validation from another, like what our system is doing. And I need to give thanks to Professor Kwekwaza, who has been very vocal about this fact. Sometimes people don't understand what is going on, but if now law education is not cheap, it is very expensive. If people are staying in the for only God knows, and their belief is that the longer you stay in the system, the more matured you are, it is false. You know, we can't even debate that. Go elsewhere. 23 people make decisions, making serious negotiations, turning from the feet of the elderly. And when it comes to Ghana, we believe that what the elderly says is the right thing, knowing perfectly well that they are indirectly or directly, knowingly or unknowingly, altering the future, altering our generation and what we can benefit from. So we must be very, very circumspect. We must be very frank to tell the General Legal Council to the face that they are messing legal education up. And the reason they are messing it up is that they are not competent to deal with it. They should hand it over to the law faculties.
Yeah.
And some of us will impact and then teach people, and then they can also become lawyers. They shouldn't stretch their hands anywhere, anyhow, thinking that the law gives it to them. So because of that, as I said, I don't respect the General Legal Council, and I'm saying it today. Not today that I've said it on countless occasions. No institution should delay the economic utility of the young person. No institution should whittle down the dreams and aspirations of a young person. If that institution does that, especially a government institution, institutional respect. I don't owe that institutional respect at all. So the solution is the law faculties must handle legal education. People should go to Ghana School of Law by choice.
Exactly. I think we are having some internet issues with Dr. Coleman's network. So yes, if you're watching this, is People Who Inspire. We are currently talking with my guest, Dr. Theophilus Coleman. He's the author of the book, Labor Law in Ghana. And for those of you who would like to pick up a copy, you go to Lexis and Nexus website. Oh, okay, you're back. Awesome. Please go
So
on. I think the network flows. Yeah.
yes, that is what I was saying related to the Ghana School of Law and the issues. We must say it the way it is. We shouldn't be afraid when people
Yeah.
are destroying the human resource of the
Mm.
country. We shouldn't be sympathetic to any institution. We shouldn't, and we must tell them to their face. If you don't have what it takes to handle it, leave, because we don't have the luxury of time to be pampering an institution as to how to deal with legal education. The institution has eminent persons. They must know
Yeah.
how to deal with
Yeah.
legal education. We shouldn't get to this point where every single year it's like the flooding in Accra. It
Yeah.
is mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Shouldn't
It's a whole cycle. Yeah.
there
It's a whole.
eminent who must know. And the truth is that those are people who didn't even go through the problems we are going through now. So why are they then doing that? That is mind-boggling. I don't think I have gotten my doctorate in law. I don't think in any imagination I will sit and say that I should be the only one to be the
Yes.
doctor of law. We don't develop a system that way. Even if you think that people don't have the necessary qualification as a competent institution, which I believe they are not, they must put in the measures to ensure that we are buffering it up. That is what happens in any system. But in our case, they feel that 90 people becoming lawyers is the best when the country
It's enough. Yeah. And Dr. Coleman, this brings me to a very important the very important aspect of the topic, because I think about the fact that if we are not able to churn out enough lawyers, because you see the world is changing so fast, so rapidly, so much so that there's always innovation is always ahead of the legal frameworks to kind of govern those innovations, right? So we and this is why when you sent this topic, I was intrigued, because if we cannot simply even agree on the number of lawyers we want to churn out on a yearly basis, how would we be able to prepare ourselves for the new economy that we find ourselves in, which is the gig economy? And you brought this topic up, and for me it's critical, because now we have an economy where we have companies like Uber who are already operating in Ghana. We have Bolt operating in Ghana. We have Grovo operating in Ghana. All these companies are essentially thriving on the gig economy. So you have people who have their own personal vehicles. I know some friends of mine who, when they are closing from work, they just, switch on the Uber app and they pick people along the routes to their homes and they make some money. Now, the other aspect is, I was reading an article just 2 weeks ago. In the European Parliament, they have a proposal before them right now, where the proposal is that they want to maybe reconstitute or recategorize gig economy workers or gig workers as employees of these companies, right? So my question here, given this backdrop, my question here is, one, what are the legal considerations that need to happen in Africa and in Ghana, right, to more or less start the conversation around this? Because I have not heard any conversation about gig workers, and there's none, right? And what is really the way forward to at least prepare ourselves around the conversations first, and to bring laws that would protect gig workers?
Okay, so in terms of the significance of the gig economy, it's a lot. In fact, the economic significance cannot be understated. And on a continent and in a country where there's unabated unemployment, particularly youth unemployment, it requires us to now think outside the box, to look for new employment methods that people can explore and tap. So the gig economy is an important economy, especially, in fact, one of the arguments advanced by the platform providers such as Uber is that they seek to create a platform to create micro entrepreneurs who traditionally have been marginalized in the traditional mainstream markets. So, and also afford them their autonomy. So this is important. So we create a lot of work. It's not just Uber. We are talking about now Ghana. There's this delivery systems.
Yes, yes. Global and all those. Yes.
They are all gig workers. And the last statistics, I think by Fairwork in Oxford, shows that about 100,000, the gig economy creates about 100,000 jobs. So that is automatically something that, and there's a paper that is Professor Bedi and I have written that is under consideration of the ways we can accommodate gig workers in Ghana. And the need to accommodate them in the current labor framework or the legal framework is very significant, because now we don't know the unfair labor practices going on
exactly.
So don't know how they are even being paid, whether their payment is in accordance with statutory law. So must their payment even be in accordance with the national daily minimum wage, which sort of creates a very foundation for which payments can be made. Recently, with the fuel hikes, Uber drivers have now, and the ride-hailing workers, they've gotten up to say, no, we want to demand for better working conditions. But then the truth is that within the current legal regime, for instance, you can seek proper representation through trade unions. And trade unions are representing employees primarily. So it requires us to be innovative, especially on the side of trade unions. The trade unions must be innovative to capture, assuming 100,000 employees are under a particular trade union, it can make a whole lot of difference. So it's like the conversation has lagged behind a bit. The truth is that sometimes when you raise this discussion, especially in America and in Europe, they think that the issue is discussed. But in Africa, it gives you a different dynamics. It gives you a different context. It gives you a different perspective. So it requires us to also develop the conversation, discuss the conversation from a socio-legal perspective, from an economic perspective, and put a legal stamp onto it. Currently, we haven't been able to do that. So now, if someone, some few months ago, Bolt drivers were complaining that when people request ride, names that come on it, I can't pronounce the names.
Yeah.
But they requested the ride through the Bolt app. Safety and security be ensured under the current Labor Act in Ghana and in many countries? It applies to those streamlined employees that we know. So it is important that we extend legal protection to them. The issues are a lot, but I think because of time we can discuss almost all of it. If you Ghana, there are so many ways we can think of protecting or extending legal protection to them, to gig workers. One is to go to court. That has been the case in the UK, where they have pronounced gig workers as employees, which then means
yes, I saw that as well.
The rubrics of their terms and conditions of employment can now be checked and streamlined to see if it meets standards. Countries, the issue have come up, for instance, in South Africa recently. I think the NEDLAC decided to take some steps in terms of the proper categorization of gig workers, whether they are employees or not. In Ghana, we don't have it. anyone who is aggrieved, especially those who are logged off from the app, can go to court in terms of unfair termination or wrongful dismissal, whichever. But the court is not enough, because when you go to court, pronounce on things that have been presented to them. Yes, through judicial activism, courts can stretch their hands a little bit. But when courts veer off from the issues that have been presented to them, it's all better. It's their statement of the court, not necessarily binding. So that is that side of the court. The second is through the Law Reform Commission of Ghana. And the Law Reform Commission of Ghana plays a very unique role in terms of taking into account socio-economic factors and the impact of it on the law. And their proposals really weigh weight. They really, in terms of the law reform and the rest. That is another channel to extend legal protection to gig workers. But the final one is the easiest one, which is under the Labor Act itself. So the Labor Act of Ghana, for instance, so now I'm speaking in the context of Ghana. For the Minister of Employment to make specific regulations. And the regulations can deal with sector-specific regulations. In South Africa, they call this sectoral determination, where they have rules or regulations governing a particular sector. So one can think of regulation dealing with a particular sector, and that is the gig workers, and that can fall under the Labor Act under Section 174, where the power is given to the minister to make regulations, to give effect to the provisions of the regulation. So in this context, we are giving effect to the fact that platform providers must ensure that certain basic standards and conditions of employment must be met. So the final can be through a guideline, a policy guideline, for instance, and that the law commission can take. Like if you are an Uber driver or something, these are the guidelines. Currently, there's just that big lacuna within the laws of Ghana. We've dealt with that extensively in the paper which is under consideration.
I'm waiting for it, pa. and like I'm happy that you gave these very concise points, and I mean, this will be my last question because we are 8 minutes above the time. But I need your opinion on this. I read just yesterday that I think Uber has now started this car financing model for Uber people who would like to be Uber drivers in Ghana. So they will give you a brand new car, and they would, I think the model is that an existing Uber driver would have to be your guarantor or something. They'll visit your home and they'll kind of do a few checks, and then they give you a brand new car, and you work, I think, 3.5 years. Is this like this work and pay as we have, in our traditional system? And it got me thinking towards today's discussion, like, what are the legal, like, frameworks around these? Like, these things, this is happening. It's not like it's hearsay, like it's really happening. And I'm thinking, like, what happens when a driver defaults? What are the insurance, like, frameworks, for example? Like, I personally think that the discussion needs to happen, like, yesterday, because innovation, like I said, is always moving. No one is waiting for you, So I don't know what you think about it, but yeah, it's just something I came across, and I thought I would share with you.
It is very interesting because one of the strong points of Uber and these ride-hailing platforms, one of their arguments is that you see in employment law, one of the conditions that distinguishes an employee from an independent contractor is whether an employer has provided tools of trade. That is very, very, very significant in determining.
Okay.
So, whenever you are working, an employer gives you certain tools that you have to work with, and those tools operate to ensure that there's that smooth performance or discharge of your performance. So this then gives room to other forms of legalities.
Exactly.
It's been made complex a lot, but it is all dependent on the very contract that the people sign, because that becomes a to government. But with them giving them cars, whether you are paying and all those things, it leaves room. Are you giving them tools of trade because you need a car? You need an app. So have you given the person a tool of trade for that duration that you are talking about? That is a complex discussion that I believe we can go on and on and on. That time wouldn't permit us. But I would love to go more into it. But certainly, I can tell you the legal challenges in terms of even ascertaining the employment relationship within that context.
Thank you very much. I think I'll just there are a few comments, no question, just some comments. So I'll just put them on the screen. So this is from Faustina Lemaire. She's watching on LinkedIn. She says the famous entrance exam. So I think this is in reference to the exams. And then Daniel also says, wow, lots of support. So this is basically, the support you received. Faustina also said family and friends become the giants on whose shoulders we stand. Kudos to those family and friends who supported. And Faustina is very active. So it says faculties should be allowed to train people for the licensing exam. What is done at Makola is only procedural and not far off from what is done at the faculty. Studying the procedural aspect with the substantive makes learning law better. That's very true. Faustina also says, I totally agree with you on the position of the GLC. So Prince and Dr. Coleman, you want to shake the legal table? We've already done that. And this is also from Michaeline. She says, excellent webinar. So thank you. Do you have any final words? How would people be able to reach out to you, Dr. Coleman? If
I think I provided my email. They can reach out on all social media platforms. I'm the sort I will respond to you immediately, even if it takes a while. I'll definitely respond to you. Whichever way that I can assist, I will. And that is the reason why we are here, because I don't think I should be the only one. I don't believe in that philosophy. And I think those who believe in that are retrogressive in character. So you can always reach out to me on social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and also my email address, which I'm sure my good friend Prince will display on the screen. So I can read. And also my final comment, you should purchase the Labor Law in Ghana book.
I was coming to ask about that. Exactly. So please, for those of you watching, I have displayed now Dr. Coleman's email address on the screen, and also you can see on the screen the book. So I've also shared on the screen. The book is titled Labor Law in Ghana. This is published by Lexis and Nexus, and it's by Professor Impedi and Dr. Coleman. So please, this is, for me, this is not just an academic book. This is basically a handbook for both people in the corporate world, because labor law, whether you like it or not, would affect you, whether you are a gig worker, whether you are a full-time employee, whether you are an employer, whether you are working as an HR person within your company. this is a handbook that will be a good reference point for the day-to-day operations. So this is crucial, as you can see on the screen. You can get this on the Lexis and Nexus website. Okay, you can just Google it, and as I did, I got all the information where to get a copy. I would like to say a big thank you, Dr. Coleman, for spending time. We are 15 minutes above time because I enjoyed the conversation so much that I lost track of time. So I want to thank you for making time for us today, and also for sharing your insights and your expertise on this topic, and more importantly, sharing your journey, your personal journey with us. For me, I have been inspired, and I do hope that for those of you watching, wherever you're watching today's episode from, I do hope that you've also been inspired. And if you're also going to watch this video, the recorded version, of course, don't forget to grab a copy of the book, and also make a date with myself and my guest next week. So I want to say thank you, Dr. Coleman, and thank you, viewers, for being with us. Have a nice weekend, and I'll say bye-bye.